property here.
Oh, that's a nice place to be. Okay,
Club
we've just
Mahindra
gone
properties.
live on Facebook. So namaste, Ramanji,
Yeah, okay, fine.
and welcome to the Rex
Namaste, sir.
Karmaveer HR Fellowship and the ODHR experience conversations that we have every Thursday. We've changed the time to 7:30 now. I think because of the participants who like to kind of join in early instead of 8 o'clock, which is where we did the first three conversations. Then last week, of course, we took a break. So welcome and looking forward to learning about some great HR and organization development experiences from you. So welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot, Jerry, for no, thank you. Thanks a lot, Jerry, for inviting me on this platform. In fact, this platform is too big for me to be here, but I am really proud to be associated with you, and I
Thank
will
you so
try
much.
to, address this. Yeah.
So tell us, let us start by, just knowing a little about your journey in HR and how has that been for so many years now. Walk us through it.
Yeah, Jerry. In fact, as you know, I am basically from a middle class family.
Right,
I did my graduation from Chandigarh, and then I moved to Shimla.
right,
Uh, for my post graduation, I did my MBA, and then after that, I got first opportunity to work with textiles.
right,
So I have a diversified experience. So my total almost initial 6 years were into textiles,
right,
where I learned lot of the IR and ER stuff.
right.
So and then moved to
IR is industrial
pharmaceuticals,
relations and
employee relations and
right,
relations,
right. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I'm
and
I'm just making some notes as you
yeah,
speak.
sure, sure. So then I moved to knowledge-based industry, basically pharmaceutical,
Mm-hmm.
which was coming up in Himachal,
Mm-hmm.
and I have been into this industry for more than a decade now.
Okay. Okay. So
In
that has
between, I
been,
had stint with
go ahead.
yeah. In between, I had a stint with the heavy engineering industry also.
Right, right,
So I have means I have been into diversified experience. I
right.
have been into and from the whole HR gamut, I have been experienced in quite some areas into HR.
Excellent. Excellent. Pleasure. So that's been a great journey. So right from industrial relations to employee relations to a whole aspect of HR. And I know you're very learning oriented because you've recently completed your life coaching and executive coaching program also. How has that journey been?
Harry, in fact, this was one of the best learnings I had in last few years.
Right,
Last year, I did my NLP certifications, and
right.
this year I have coaching certification, and it's really transforming.
Very nice.
So the way I was handling the things on the professional fronts, of course, after this training, there will be a lot of changes in that also.
Right. And in the organizations that you worked in so far, OD has always been a part of HR, right?
Yes, yes, of course, and in fact, I have been instrumental in bringing quite some, new initiatives so far as the OD is concerned,
Right,
and there was a lot of challenges which were handed over to me while I took some of the assignments,
right.
and I have a journey to share. Yeah.
Very nice. Great. Now tell me how, if you were to see OD as a part of HR, do you think it's justified to make OD a part of HR, or do you feel that OD would be better as a separate division and department altogether from HR? What are your views on this?
Jerry, what I feel is, HR itself is evolving over the years.
Right,
If you see traditionally, when means in 90s, late 90s, when I joined this HR fraternity. So that
Right.
time, basically there were few job opportunities available for the employees,
Right.
and whenever we used to hire people, we always used to think that this person will stay for another, say 40 years with us.
Right.
So we have to, be very, very conscious about, what kind of person we are recruiting. And we were so concerned about all the aspects, and over a decade, things were totally changed.
Right.
So now we started talking more about, retention and, engagement, all those things. So
Right.
earlier we always used to think, that how to get the things done, and how to put him into the job, and because he is going to stay, and how to control his overall means overall industrial peace we wanted to maintain. So that was the focus. So
Right.
the focus shifted from hiring to retention to engagement. So this is how the things are changing in HR. And
Right.
if you see now, in last one decade,
Hmm.
things are totally changed.
Right.
Now,
Right.
I feel, HR is a business partner role now,
Right.
and every this the board of directors and the means chief executive officers, so they always look for a very dynamic HR professional who
Right.
can actually bring the kind of diversity in the organization.
Right. Right. And HR has to be a business partner. But what I'm trying to say is that do you feel that HR and OD would function better as two separate departments and divisions, which are independent and autonomous bodies, rather than OD being a part of HR? That is my basic query of you.
Jerry, you are right. If we take it as a bigger umbrella, so OD
Right.
becomes a bigger umbrella that way,
Right.
because this is
Absolutely.
how we build the culture within the organization, and
Right.
the culture is not maybe of one department. Actually, it is the overall management has to create the right culture.
Right. And because in a lot of places where I have worked and where I have consulted as a HROD consultant, I have proposed that, that we separate the departments, because the learning focus uh, should be in depth, where HR does not get kind of distracted from their roles of overall people recruitment, retention, like you said. And
Yeah.
so that's where, and OD again should not be kind of uh, uh, involved in those transactional roles and responsibilities, and should focus purely on investing in people. That's of course something which we are promoting through our great organizations who affirm learning, because the whole idea is that when you create a learning culture, you create a culture of trust. And I'll share some thoughts on that with you later. You spoke about how HR are business partners to the CEOs, and yet around the world, you see very few HR people who actually make the cut as a CEO. Because in HR, you grow vertically till you reach the head position, and then you probably become a global head or something. But you don't see people from HR becoming CEOs of organizations. What do you think is the reason for that?
The reason is very simple. Whenever we are stuck to, our own comfort zones,
Right.
so the transformation is not happening.
Right.
So as a professional, if we are partnering with the business as a business HR role,
Hmm.
so the understanding of business should, continue to the extent that we ourselves can lead the business. So I have few examples in
Right.
my area,
Right.
wherein the HR people are heading the overall business. There are few examples in my knowledge.
Surely, surely. I'm saying there are few examples. Surely, Santrup Misra is one of them now. But I mean, in the HR fraternity, who's a well-known figure. But I'm saying, by far and large, it's mostly the sales, marketing, or business. What I'm trying to, the insight I'm trying to provoke is it's most companies, it's the profit-driven approach where the people who are writing the profits are mostly made the CEOs, because it's not a people driven approach. If it is a people driven
You're right.
approach, then
You're right.
then it's people who drive a business. And if that approach is adopted by a company, that's where HR people rise to become CEO. But in most
You're
companies,
right.
since it is profit driven, then and in those companies you also see that the focus of investing in people, right,
Yeah.
with in-depth learning and development is missing, where learning and development is seen more like a transaction than as a investment in people. What are your thoughts on this?
No, you are absolutely right. This is the reality of business. And of course, the business means, generating the business, the profits, and of
Right,
course, the top line and bottom line matters. That is
right,
why we are into business. But there is one more aspect is about the sustainability.
right,
So the sustainability, of course, these days, sustainability is not just because of your products.
right,
Of course, the kind of people you carry along, the kind of loyalty you have within the system.
right,
So, and the kind of culture you have, this gives the sustainability to the business.
right, right. Very nice. And do you think a lot of business managers, I mean, HR people are surely kind of focused on sustainability, CSR people are focused on sustainability, but yet you don't see the CEOs or the business leads focusing on sustainability, because they are always focusing on more profitability and scalability, without understanding that scale cannot be achieved without sustainability. What are your views on this?
Jerry, to be honest, the things are changing. It is not like that now,
Right,
because all the prospering businesses, they do understand, the sustainability is of course most important, because we have seen a lot of brands going away
right,
and a lot of big businesses, fading away,
right,
because they somewhere lost the track on
right,
the sustainability aspect.
right,
Especially in these days, you see, the technology is changing, and the things which you have right now, if
right,
you don't innovate, people are
right,
not with you.
right.
So you cannot continue in the business. There are big names which have gone all the way.
Right. And I completely agree with you. And I think there are several case studies of how companies and businesses which were not sustainable, which were not focusing on investing in people and innovation, have kind of succumbed and and died out. Right. And yet, I wish I could be as optimistic as you are about how things are changing, and things are changing, but in a few organizations which are driven by people like you, who are focused on people and not just on profits, and focused on really bringing out the potential of people and not just looking at their performance and the results that they produce. But by far and large, even if you see the large Fortune 500 companies, and I'm speaking purely as a L&D professional who engages with all these companies, it's very difficult to get the managers to understand that. So while a CEO may have understood that the focus on people and innovation is very important, the it's not percolated down to the middle managers and even the senior managers. Because for example, to give you a simple simple catch line which most managers use, right? Innovate, do something different, but don't fail. What does that
You're
mean?
right.
Right? Or get it right first. These are some typical jargon which is used in management. The moment you say innovate but don't fail, you actually told the person don't do anything innovative. Because to innovate you
Jerry,
need to
you are
experiment and you need to fail. So there is no culture of failure. So what are your thoughts on this?
Jerry, you are absolutely right. And to be very honest with you, this is the biggest challenge. When we say, we want to change the things, we want to involve people to bring new things. And of course, back of the mind, there is always means the budget is there, everything is measured, and we have all the KRAs, KPIs, and of course, within that we want to fit innovate concept also, wherein we bring new things, but we don't allow them to fail. So
Right,
when we don't allow them to fail, of course, I'm not talking about any specific organization,
right,
but in general, this is especially when it is mid-sized organization, innovate somewhere take the back seat.
Right.
because there is a common fear in employees, because they do have a fear in mind of their job, because they have all the EMIs and all those things connected to their livelihood.
Right.
So they themselves are not having the tendency to take the risk
Risk.
or take new initiatives. So
Right.
they want the things to move normally. If we
Right.
create the right kind of culture, then only the suggestions keep on flowing, and the kind of innovative ideas they are coming. So we have to create the right culture. So of course, there are few organizations where I have worked. There we had this kind of the culture where it was okay to fail.
Right. Right. And that culture is very important, because if you're not innovating, you're not changing the game, and you're not continuously improving and evolving, it's a matter of time before you die. I mean, the classic examples like Nokia, BlackBerry, who have faced these dilemmas over the years. And these were big brands. They were once upon a time evaluated at 65 billion and 75 billion and 100 billion dollars, and then finally crashed to less than $4 billion. So
You are right. You are right.
because they were very profit driven, they were not innovating, they were not kind of preparing for change. Because if you fail to prepare for change, change will fail, get you failed at some point in your life or in the organization's life. And therein lies the truth of it. Coming back to my earlier topic, Ramanji, where I was talking to you about how people from HR, very few make the cut as CEOs. So given that scenario, I mean, all of us, when we are youngsters and teenagers, we have dreams of you know making it to the top, etc. Given that scenario, what inspired you to kind of choose the field of HR, industrial relations, employee relations?
It's a long journey, but when I was doing my graduation
Right.
in Punjab University, that time I was very fond of getting interactions with people, and to know more about them. And I was a team player. I was always involved in theater and means many activities which were related to people and their emotions,
Right.
taking them along. So at that time I decided to go into HR.
Hmm.
But when I landed into understanding the HR, so it's like an ocean.
Hmm.
I am just top in that. So it's a big means area. I'm still
Right.
learning.
Right. Right. So you always been people driven, which I've seen with you in the learning space also. You're focusing on people that they are learning. I remember we had this uh, workshop with you and your team and your partners, and I won't name the
You're right.
organization or anything, but it was in a exotic location. But you were very focused on the learning, and at the same time you're also very focused on the fun element along with the learning, right? So that inspiration to work with people is what drove you to choose HR as your preferred role and responsibility, is what I'm hearing you say. Is that right?
Yes, Terry. In fact,
Yes.
I love to be into HR.
Right. And
Till
that's
date, that love is still the passion and love is still there.
right. That's brilliant, and I think that's what drove you to adopt this new avatar of becoming a coach and helping people with life coaching and executive coaching and so on. So I think that's a great journey. I'm going to come to my favorite topic now, which is something which every HR person loves, around the world. This entire rating called Great Places to Work. I'm sure you're familiar with the rating. And with all due
Yes,
respect to
yes.
great places to work, I'm not talking about the rating at all. I'm talking about the nomenclature per se, great place to work. I've always, felt that it's a little bit of a flawed nomenclature, for the simple reason that people join a place, but they don't work for a place, right? And if you actually compare great places to work with the Gallup organization study, which actually tells you that 85% of people who come to jobs worldwide hate their jobs, because 85% of people who come to jobs hate their jobs because they are not working for the place. And though the CEO and leadership team and brilliant hands-on people-oriented HR people like you might create a great culture of the best infrastructure, the best seating arrangement, the best kind of fun and joy at work, right? But then you have managers who people are reporting to, right? And the reason people hate their jobs is because they don't hate the place, they hate the manager, right? And that also shows you in the other study, which shows that now, 90% of people who leave jobs don't leave the organization or the brand or the place, they leave their managers, right? And yet we call the place great place to work when 85% of people hate their jobs. What are your thoughts on this?
Jerry, means I do agree with you.
Right,
The great place to work is actually a place where people learn, people grow together, and
right,
there is a culture of having the talent pipeline. Creating an atmosphere wherein you give a chance to the freshers to come on,
right,
and they learn and they grow. And
right,
then in the system everyone grows.
right.
If means I before I make a comment on what you said, I have a wonderful case study or something which I have tried in three organizations, and it has worked wonderfully. Generally the leaders don't accept the freshers because they feel it will take a lot of time, lot of effort to give them the learnings, and by the time you give them learning they will move out.
Right.
But I have tried it in three different organizations, and
Mhm.
I learned this in the very initial of my career.
Right.
Uh, if you permit, I would like to share that.
Sure. Please go ahead.
When I started my career in textiles
Right.
in late 90s, I was doing my summer training with the Vardhaman Group.
Right.
So I was given an opportunity to work in Vardhaman Training and Development Center, which was itself a very big place, and it was dedicated to the L&D only. And
Right.
it was around maybe 15 acres of land, which was dedicated to the L&D,
Right.
where they used to hire the freshers. They
Mhm.
called it executive trainees, and then also hired management trainees. And
Right.
they were put in program of 3 to 6 months, wherein they were just learning and
Right.
getting their salaries.
Right.
And they were having wonderful food and library, all the facilities which you can imagine. And
Right.
there was a statement written there, because I was doing training. I was just thinking, during my summer training, why they are investing so much on people who are just freshers from the university,
Right.
and what they will get in return.
Right.
And I tried to during that project I evaluated how many of them used to stay for more than 3 years with them to 5 years with them.
Right.
So then I realized, many of them, the young graduates who
Right.
join this program,
Right.
leave them.
Right.
And I got an opportunity to interact with the vice president that time.
Right.
And then he told me about the statement of Mr. Oswal,
Right.
SP Oswal,
Right.
who was then means rewarded to the highest civilian award. So
Right.
he said, I am hand holding the young graduates,
Hmm.
not for my means unit. I am hand holding them for the industry.
Right.
They will
Right.
work for industry, textile industry, and they will, be wonderful means professionals. And in return, the industry will grow.
Right. And
So
that's a visionary thinking, right?
yeah, that is the visionary thinking. And later on, when I started working with the means after my tenure with textiles for initial 6 7 years, I
Right.
moved to pharmaceutical. And in pharmaceutical, the concept was, this is a knowledge based industry, and we would spend any amount to hire the talent. There was always a struggle of hiring the talent, and attracting the talent from any industry at any cost.
Right. Right.
The concept of grooming the talent was somewhere missing,
Right.
which I learned in the textile industries.
Right.
And I started experiencing and persuading on this in
Right.
the industries. And I have tried this in three different industries, big units, so it
Right.
it worked wonderfully.
Right.
So in all the organizations, the attrition was very high when means this concept was not there.
Right.
Slowly, when we built on this concept, there is hardly any attrition. People love to be there because in return, everyone grows. When
Right.
you hire a fresher, he gives the kind of energy and hard work in the initial stage, and in return, you get good supervisors who are into operations. That they move to the next level,
Right.
and from the best supervisors you can train the best managers or middle line managers, and in place, you get whole the pipeline set. So
Right.
this is one thing I wanted to share with you on this.
Right. And you were talking about a line which was a line which was written on the wall of the training center. What was that line you were speaking about?
So the line which was written there was, of course, means we train for the industry and for the
Right,
country,
right,
not for my
and
ego.
that is the vision of Mr. S.P. Oswald, which was written over there, which is
Yeah,
which actually kind of reminds me of another line by Richard Branson, who said that train people so well that they can leave, but treat them so well that they don't want to leave. And I think this part has not been understood by most business leaders and CEOs and industry leaders, that when you treat people well and show them that they are valued and that you're really kind of investing in them, then don't need a great place to work certification. Because I find that disconnect, because having worked with several of the Fortune 500 companies, MNCs, PSUs, I see that all of them are listed in great places to work, but the culture inside is not so great. And then when you kind of compare great places to work with Glassdoor, the story is completely contradictory again, right?
you're right.
So,
And
so
your thought actually takes me back to the learnings from Guru Nanak ji.
right,
He also said, uh, generally it is said, bas de raho. So he said, ujad jao.
right, right,
So one place is, he said ujad jao, and he was asked this question, why you are asking good people to, spread over.
right.
So he said, it is not good that all good people stay at one place. When they move, they take that goodness to the other place also.
Very nice. And that is so true, that you create leaders who disperse into the industry, and maybe even into other industries, because then what you have done is you created a culture of good people who will go out and do good, right? Not just make profits, but also understand that people and
You're
planet are important, because that's your overall sustainability. Because if you're actually kind of destroying the planet and harming the people from whom you make your profits, that's not sustainable. So I think sustainability is a much
right.
higher level than what most industry
Very
and
right. Yeah,
companies understand in today's day and age. Any thoughts on that,
you're
Ramanji?
right. You're right.
Right.
You're right.
So
And, of course, the visionaries people are there like Tatas, and,
right,
I shared about in my area this SP Oswald's, thought on that.
true, true,
Of course,
true.
those people are there in the system.
Right. So, Ramanji, just to introduce you, our colleague associate JC Desai has just joined us, and JC is going to be later speaking with you about the great organizations that affirm learning goal ratings, as we are calling it, that we intended to roll out in 2020, but now because of the pandemic we'll probably roll it out in 2021. But this HR experience conversations that we are holding for the past 4 weeks is basically kind of connected and is influenced by the goal rating. And the idea is to create a organization which is based on Peter Senge's fifth discipline, which means that you create a culture of learning, not just for the leadership team or the hypers or the high potentials, but for every individual in the organization. Something which I've
You're
seen
right.
you doing very effectively in places where you have worked. And I've seen you personally, like I said, in the workshop. Now, there's another trend which disturbs me. A lot of times, HR people, HR heads, HR partners ask me, "Do you also coach the middle managers and the juniors?" And I'm like, "What does that mean?" And they're like, "No, because a lot of coaches, a lot of corporate trainers only work with senior professionals. And I'm like, but who delivers the results? It's not just the
You're right.
CEO who delivers the results; it's the frontliners who deliver the results. What do you think is this trend happening, where several coaches also on their LinkedIn profiles put that we only work with the senior leadership teams and the CXOs of the organization? Do you think this trend holds any weight?
Jerry, to be honest, when I learned coaching, I asked my manager, who is handling the L&D for me here. I asked her to, arrange the coaching sessions for executives and the those who actually requires them the most. First,
Right, right,
first I need to address them because others are getting the professional support from one way or the other.
true, true,
So that is of course there, and why you ask me, why people tend to do that,
right,
because when you are into profession and you want to brand yourself,
right,
sometimes the inclination is to brand yourself with the top notch.
right,
So
right,
that is somewhere a point which actually is there, and the other
yeah,
aspect is since the coaching assignments are paid assignments.
right,
So generally, even companies don't spend on their executives so much.
right,
So most of the business must be coming from for the top leaders actually,
right,
whether it is self-paid or the company sponsored. So I think
right.
that may be the reason.
And I think that's a great insight that you provided me about why people do that. But the point of the matter is that it's as warped as the great places to work thinking that just because you personally brand yourself that I only work with senior leaders, and people who are reading your profile are probably like, what is this guy talking about, right? Because I actually put on my profile and I work with everybody because everybody is important, and that's the basic
You're
concept of
right.
leadership, that
You're right.
everyone is important. It takes everyone to deliver the targets, the results, and the goals of an organization, not just the CEO. The CEO alone cannot do it. The
You're right.
senior management team alone cannot do it. It takes all the people who are out there in the field, who are out there working in research, out there working at the grassroots. And if you're not going to help them to kind of become more robust and make them more solid, then you're actually harming your productivity,
You are right.
right?
And honestly, sorry, you please
Go ahead,
continue.
go ahead. No, no, I completed what I was saying. Yeah.
So since I started from the means the manufacturing units and
Right,
setups,
right,
I have been working very very closely with the shop floor people.
right,
So my team who works on the shop floor actually,
right,
those are the people who actually drives all the innovations,
right.
all the new ideas, all the kaizens. So they are driven by them.
Absolutely. And the
And
whole idea of innovation and process improvement is that you empower the person in the last mile, including the intern who's just joined you as a fresh recruit straight out of college. You empower them that, hey, if you have ideas to improve the process and innovate, please help us to know, because I don't know everything, right?
yeah, from
But
your example, actually, one live example came to my mind.
right.
I had a means young diploma guy
Mhm.
from a very average institute in UP, but
Right,
that boy was very bright, and I was looking something in his eyes, so
right,
I gave him the opportunity, and
right,
I gave him opportunity as an apprentice only. So
right,
there was a packaging line in one of my previous employer,
right,
which was not working for last 6 months,
right,
and they were struggling with it, and that guy joined, and the second day of his joining,
right,
he said, If you permit me, I would like to do something with the printer
right,
on, and they said, we have tried everything. Now you can also try. So, but
right,
that guy actually immediately, within half an hour, could set right the machine,
right,
and I got a, recommendation that we need this person at any cost. We want to take him on rolls. So
right,
that was the apprentice who got on roll within a week of joining.
right, right.
These are the examples actually on shop floor.
And there you are. I mean, I remember when the BST buses in Bombay, Bombay Electric Suburban and Transport Company, they were running into losses, And just when you shared this example, that immediately came to me. And BST employed some of the best consultants, like you named the top consultants like Bain and McKinsey, to figure out how can we kind of move from making losses to move to profitability. And the solution actually came from a bus driver finally. So, so so sometimes when you ignore people who can actually give you the best ideas, and I think this is the culture which 3M adopted. 3M, the earlier version of 3M was Minnesota Mining and Mineral Company, right? It
Mm,
sounds only like a PSU, which is very stodgy and which is very difficult for people to work in. So when they reinvented their brand from Minnesota Mineral and Mining Company to 3M, they didn't just change the brand name. They decided to change the entire culture. And they actually have one day in a week where they encourage employees to just sit down and come up with crazy, stupid ideas. Because what has been realized over time is that the most crazy ideas are the most valuable ideas. And you're not allowing
yes,
people to think crazy, you're not allowing people to think stupid, because you think that you have all the wisdom of the world as the CEO or the leadership team member sitting in your corner office, without realizing that these people could actually come out with the best ideas. And what I've noticed in the lockdown is many people, because as you know, besides doing the one-to-one coaching with leaders at all levels, I also do corporate training. So then there's so many people that I meet in corporate trainings, and many people hesitate because they don't know what kind of fees I charge, or right. And they write to me that, can you recommend a coach who works with junior people? And I'm like, you don't want me, you don't like me? And they're like, no, no, we can't afford your fees. I said, where have I even spoken about fees to you? Right. So the point is, and I like working with them because they are young, fresh, they have so many ideas which are not being listened to by their managers, by their bosses, because all the ideas have to come from me. You are just my minions. And that again challenges my entire concept of the great places to work. Because Ramanji, no no matter how effective a HR person you are, even if you have a team of 100 people, it is physically impossible for you to look into what a manager is doing with his people on a day-to-day basis. Would you agree? And that,
yes, yes, yes.
and that's where the toxicity comes in, and the great places to work takes a beating.
Mm,
And I have discussed this with several HR people over the past 4 weeks who have participated in this panel, that people from HR and people from learning, rather than trying to control how people work with their team members or how they treat their team members, what they can actually control is how they percolate learning into the system, how they filter the concept of managers moving towards leaders by simply learning the concept, the science, the art, the craft of mentoring. Because a lot of people again use that word mentor, chief mentor, without knowing the M of mentoring, because mentoring is a set
yeah,
science which
yeah,
employs the principles of coaching but is much more than coaching, right?
you're right.
And third is that they also ensure that they build into the KRAs essentially how to ensure that every manager is producing and creating leaders, so that when a role is coming up, you don't need to look outside. That leader should emerge from within. And yet when you have senior roles or even senior middle management roles, which need to be filled up, you immediately see HR looking at talent scouts and looking outside. It's not coming from within, because the focus on people which should have been built into the KRs and KPIs is not there, because the managers are only looking at profits and results and targets. So this is where we are coming up with the entire concept of great organizations affirm learning uh, goal, as we are calling it, which is absolutely based on the central theme of Peter Senger's fifth discipline, which is that you percolate learning to members at all levels of the organization. It cannot just be that the learning and development is only being kind of imparted to people who are in the senior teams, or people who are high pots, high potentials, or hypers, because everybody is high potential. What are your thoughts on
Jerry,
this?
Jerry, I first of all, I would like to congratulate you on this, initiative.
Thank you
This is
so
a
much.
wonderful initiative, And of course, this is something which is a need of the day, because enough has been discussed about creating the great place to work, and what people do actually, means people means including me, what we have done in our past.
Right,
you know we do so many things to get the results right,
right,
but the sustainability is missed out somewhere.
right,
And what is sustainable, what is important, and what is actually meaning to the society is
right.
what you are talking about, giving the right kind of environment and right kind of culture to nurture the learning at all the
Absolutely.
levels, at all the
Right.
levels.
Absolutely. And I
And
like that term, culture to nurture potential. Because I don't know why people don't get the plot. And that's why I always use this line, great parents make great leaders, whether it's our kids or our people, team members. We don't look at their potential. We only look at their performance. Percentage kitna aaya, target kitna kiya. We are not looking at, hey, what can we help you to, how can we help you to make you grow to the next level? Right. And I think it's beautifully encompassed in this one line which Peter Drucker spoke about. And everybody loves to quote Peter Drucker and Peter Senge, but वो सिर्फ बातें हैं, rhetoric है. They're not putting it into practice. And Peter Senge had said many years ago, almost 35, 40 years ago, he had said, culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? Which is a very loaded thought, which is a very insightful thought. Culture eats strategy for breakfast, which basically means that if a culture of trust, if a culture of learning, if a culture of failure is not there, then your strategy is all bunkum. It is futile. It's not going to take you too far. It will take you to a certain place, but it's not going to take you beyond, right? And yet, in most organizations, you see great strategies, but the culture is not there. And because the culture is of trust is not there, the execution plan fails because the ownership is not there. What are your thoughts on this?
Jerry, I strongly believe, and I think I'm a hardcore believer on this.
Right,
Strategies look very attractive, and strategies are what top management always are focused on.
right,
And of course, they very well know that if the culture that enables that strategies to move
right.
is right, so then only the strategies will see the light of day.
True.
So that of course they know, but creating the right culture is
Uh,
itself uh, a great task actually, and
Absolutely. And that,
kind
that
of,
that's the most difficult task.
yeah. And and it is not one person that can make it. People have the values defined in place.
Right,
They have their mission statement, they have their vision statements.
right,
Any organization you pick, whether it is MSME, mid-sized organization, big
right,
organizations, all
right.
those go for ISO certifications, have all these things in place.
that's
But
that's that's the only culture, the certifications and the ratings and the GPW certificates on the walls. But unfortunately the culture is not there in the organization, right? It's like some briefs which I get from people in learning HR when they say, take them out white water rafting, take them out rappelling, take them out for outside outdoor games and build me a great team. And I always tell them that's like taking a monkey to a L'Oreal salon, I say, because there are great teams in that offsite, singing songs, one team, one dream. But the moment they come back to the office, the other games that people play in the office begin. So teams are built on shared vision, shared values. Teams are built on a culture of trust, relationships of trust. And I think that is what we teach in the leadership coaching and the leadership corporate training programs. But the point is, even after people undergo those programs, they slip back into that typical what I call as the lemon squeezer, squeezing lemons, juicing them out, because they are so focused on the quarterly targets and the half yearly targets and the annual targets. And the truth is, Ramanji, that the world over, these kind of myopic managers are actually hacking at the roots, and they're destroying the roots of the organization and completely kind of impacting negatively the sustainability of the organization, because you can't get your quarterly results by hook or crook. They have to be got in the right way. What are your thoughts on this?
Jerry, the one thing that comes to my mind is actually, uh, especially there are few managers I've seen in all the organization.
Right.
They are themselves somewhere having a fear of means their continuity
Right.
or something, and they are themselves not aware the kind of toxins they created within the system.
Absolutely.
Because yeah, so that is very very typical situation. We weed out all the junior people whenever there is an issue. We say these people are somewhere involved in the misconducts or somewhere involved in hanky panky things or somewhere they are.
Absolutely.
But the bigger the leaders, if you find someone in that system, they manage to sell. So that is, somewhere, I
Absolutely.
think a lot of
Yeah.
work needs to be done. And because there is some kind of, fear in
Right.
the managers also or the leaders also.
Yeah,
Because,
because these are managers who've grown in that same system, having the same insecurity, and
mm,
insecure managers cannot build secure team members. If you're not fully
yes,
engaged, how will you engage and energize others, right? Because if you belong to that 85% of the workforce who comes to a job that you hate, then that culture becomes a vicious cycle. Now the whole idea of a learning culture and a culture of trust is to transform that vicious cycle into a virtuous cycle where you don't just look at profits, but you also look at how to make people understand their potential so that they can become more productive. And when that happens, profits will automatically double, triple, or quadruple, or maybe even go 10x. And I think
10x, you're right.
that is a concept which every manager, I think everybody who joins any organizations needs to start learning from the very beginning. Like you said, to take a line from Mr. S.P. Oswal, that you
Oswald, yeah.
build and you invest in coaching people right from the time they join the industry, any industry, so that wherever they go, they're not just focusing on profits, but they're also focusing on people. And I think that is something that we aspire to do with the great organizations, Affirm Learning, or the goal ratings as we are calling it. And I'm going to hand you over to JC Desai now. Thank you so much for those wonderful insights and lovely speaking to you as usual. I learned a lot from you in the session that we had a little before the lockdown. Uh, and I remember all the insights you were sharing through the workshop, and including provoking people in the workshop, some very senior leaders from your organization. And thank you for all the insights and the thoughts that you provoked. I love your humility, and I love your integrity to focus and try to bring out the best in people. Thank you, and over to you, JC. Namaste to you, and
Thank you,
Ramanji is
Jerry.
Hi,
all
Raman.
yours.
Good evening,
Hi,
Jerry.
Raman, and good evening. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks so much. So, yeah, I was listening to you, and it's interesting to hear from you. Your given the context of the shop floor, what would you say is the attributes of which contributes to culture of learning? What are
The
all the attributes you would have?
For me, actually, means attributes or what I feel is more important is the attitude of respecting the junior most person in the system,
Okay,
respecting
okay.
the knowledge they bring to the platter,
Mm-hmm.
the kind of energy they have within themselves. And
Okay.
once they bring all those things, and then you have something to share. Being a mentor, there is a system, I've seen on shop floor specifically in many organizations, including the various industries, even in
Mm-hmm.
textile, heavy engineering, and in the pharma also. Generally,
Mm-hmm.
long back, people always, even the operators used to be very shy when it was to, help the new person to get that skill, because they somewhere were
Okay.
feeling, that becomes a threat to them, because they don't have,
Mm.
potential. Once that person is set, they will lose their own importance in the system. So that
Right.
kind of, culture needs to be evolved, wherein, the those who help the learning to happen, so they
Uh-huh.
also have the right place, they are given the opportunity to the next level. And even if they require some kind of because sometimes on the shop floor we see the people who enter the industry very early without having the proper qualifications, but they are very very
Right.
intelligent. And if you build around some programs wherein the formal learning or some kind of apprenticeship program, like this in recent past, in the era of Mr. Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So there are
Mm-hmm.
many skill India, wherein there are some universities working around that. The
Okay.
fresher or the people who are working on shop floor, they get enrolled to the graduate programs, and part of their
Okay.
fees is actually sponsored by the government. So these are many things
Okay.
which are available in the system, and many of the
Okay.
industries have adopted that. So I think these initiatives will help us to build the new India.
Okay. And when you were talking about on the shop floor, there are certain people who will share their skill, you said, right? Well, who's that kind of person? That I'm sure we can learn something from those people who are far more willing to share their experience or their skill with the others. So if you had to kind of describe that person, how would you describe?
So those people are very means open people. They have a very open mindset. They
Mm-hmm.
wish the people come along and learn and grow. So these are the
Okay.
typically line managers in the system,
Mm-hmm.
which have
Mm-hmm.
themselves grown from the means bottom line.
Okay.
So they
Okay.
have
So they
initiated.
themselves have struggled to learn and therefore now willing to share. That's what
Yes,
you're
yes,
saying,
yes,
right?
yes.
Okay. Also, uh, they are people with fewer insecurities, you can say, that they're willing to
Uh,
share their.
those who are having insecurities are very very shy when it comes to upskilling
Share.
the other person. But those who
Huh.
are above that, of course they are open and they grow in the system.
Okay. Okay. So, so if you had to kind of talk about the person who has deep insecurities, how would he perform or he function in terms of interpersonal relationship on the job? How would you describe that person who's insecure?
There's means a lot of insecurity within the system when I see from HR perspective. So of
Okay.
course at all the levels, those insecurities are there, because everyone wants their importance in the system. And
Mm-hmm.
that kind of insecurity becomes hindrance for their growth. That is one. And for the growth
Okay.
or learning within the organization. So how to handle
Okay.
this was your question, I think.
So why I'm asking you this was in our process of identifying or rating the goal rating, which is great organizations affirm learning. So in that process, we want to look at people's motivations at the start. So the motivations could we are looking at Dr. Halen's model, and the motivation states that there are people who are insecure, who will like to control the situation around them, and therefore will not share, because once you share your skill, you've lost control, right? So therefore, he is more controlling. Whereas the person who's operating out of a greater sense of, fairness and security is willing to share.
You
He's
are
more
right, you are
open,
right.
right? So we want to first identify people's motivation and then go on to rating the organization or rating their contribution to the organization. So that was the method we were following. So
And
No, you are absolutely.
JC, just to
Yeah, Jerry,
interject, over,
please.
you're absolutely right. And I always tell this to people that, a person who shares knowledge automatically shows you her or his security, because they understand that, you don't make people dependent on you, you make people independent. Failing which, they are also going to burn you out, because when you need to look into everything, because that's your insecurity which makes you look into
Control.
what every reportee is doing, right? Or
Right.
micromanage or follow up with them, right? Now when you need to do that, that shows your insecurity as a manager, because
Yes.
and people don't realize, but in the long term it burns them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're absolutely, secure leaders let go. And what people have not realized, this is another insight, is that research shows that when you share your knowledge does not reduce, it grows. And it
Grow.
by sharing
Yeah.
knowledge, your learning can go up to 95%, right?
Right.
So thanks for that insight, JC. Over to you again.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jesse.
So yes, yeah, Raman, you were saying on the same point. Yeah. You were saying
Yeah, I
something,
was.
right? You are.
Yeah, I was saying, when I was studying, I did one project in Hero Cycles, which was which is somewhere connected to the demography also,
Mm-hmm.
like at what age you are, and what are your responsibilities, and what are the demographics actually, which creates that kind of fear or openness, is also one
Mm-hmm.
of the thought that comes to my mind. But of course, the question which you have right now in your discussion is,
Yeah.
of course, the learning is actually happening only when that fear is gone.
Gone.
And to facilitate, to create the culture of freedom to share and move on, is
Yeah.
setting the right example. If somebody shares and gives the learning, and then handholds the generation next, actually,
Mm-hmm.
then from management side, you have to then handhold that person to take him to the next level, and work with him through the IDPs and all those things. Then
Right.
as a responsibility of management, it is
Mm-hmm.
to facilitate the whole process. If he is giving the learning down the line, so we have to
Mm-hmm.
create the right environment wherein he gets the right learning to move
Right
ahead.
learning. Okay. But I also feel, having worked with a lot of people, I do consumer research. So a lot of consumer research. And what I feel is, there are people who are born kind of more secure than the others who are born a little insecure. So I'm wondering how an organization will, patch up that bit and build up the insecurity, or take away the insecurity of the person, because some people I feel are born insecure. I don't know, what do you feel
Yeah,
about
see,
that?
since I have done the coaching certification, so now I know the process, to handle this. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, what I talked earlier is actually there is lot to do with the background of the person, the demography from where he comes, the place
Right.
from where he comes, the responsibility they carry. The
Right.
fear is, of course, in the Maslow's need hierarchy, where is that person placed? So
Right.
if he's having lot many responsibilities, and the only way to earn is the job,
Yeah.
so the kind of insecurities, or those things will
Okay.
be always there. So it is holistically we have to see. So this is what I
Right.
feel. There is no set formula to overcome this. Of course,
Right.
the coaching. If organizations invest in coaching,
Right.
so of course, to some extent, this can be handled through coaching also.
Right. Okay. This is exactly what the earlier expert also said. It depends on where he is in the journey on the Maslow's hierarchy. If he's in the security level, obviously he's going to be more insecure than if he's in the self-esteem or the self-actualization. Of course, there are very few there, but if he's on that level, so it depends on which part of the journey the individual is. So probably a organization needs to look at his context also, to
Yeah,
some
this is what
extent.
exactly.
In
This is what I
Yes,
wanted
that's
to.
what you were also saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is the only
that's
point I
right.
wanted to refer here.
Right. So while we are talking on this motivation, this aspect of secure, insecure comes on a vertical axis, and on the horizontal axis is about self versus others, self versus society, or self versus others. So when I am inwardly drawn and I am operating out of fear, then I'm very controlled. Whereas if I am outwardly drawn, then my whole strategy is different. So that's part of the model, and the model that we are going to use, and we are planning to assess individuals motivation through a couple of statements in the initial part of the questionnaire. We are doing it through a questionnaire, right? So we'll be
Yes,
do
this looks
addressing.
wonderful. It's very
Okay.
interesting. I'm
Right.
really curious to know more about it.
Oh, there's a lot of work that at least we use it in our consumer research, a lot of that. And I feel that will be very helpful to understand the learning organization. A
See, I'm
lot.
really proud. I'm really proud of it.
So this is not something you all have considered in as an expert in HR, would you say, or is it something new for you,
Uh,
or
no, so far
I
as
mean the
the
combination of it?
so far as this concept is, of course, this is very very new because I have not heard much
Mm-hmm.
about it. How to take it further is,
Mm-hmm.
of course, a journey. But to start with, this
Mm-hmm.
is the I think it's on track and wonderful initiative.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
So
Now, how to
you
take it
said,
forward also? Yeah.
yeah, please, you continue.
No, I said how to take it forward. Also, we've done quite a bit of work, but more in the context of brands. We
Okay.
plot brands on such things. So now we have to start plotting people on such things, on this model. So I think it should not be too difficult for us. So that's what we are planning to do in this evaluation. So
Yeah.
any other thought?
Central
Yeah.
theme, which around which this whole concept is there is actually creating, not creating the great place to work per se, but creating
Hmm.
actually a learning place wherein people,
Hmm.
love to join and learn and grow together. Together
Right.
as a team,
Right.
the learning is happening, and it's a prosperous place for everyone. So this is
Hmm.
broadly the concept actually, which because I have read
Okay.
the whole articles which Jerry has shared. So and
Okay.
conceptually it looks wonderful.
Okay. Okay. Anything else you want to add in terms of the evaluation? Anything you think we've missed out, or anything you want to add?
Jesse, what I feel is, somewhere because I have taken that journey of great place to work in one or two organizations. Of course, that the initial thrust which great place to work gives is
Mm-hmm.
also sometimes I feel it also gives the immediate boost to the culture within the organization, and then to sustain these things, the kind of long term strategies which your intervention will give the real shape. But initial boost somewhere comes from low hanging fruits or things, visibility on suggestions, the kind of suggestions we are getting, the kind of
Mm-hmm.
reward and recognition. So all those things which in great place to work they are talking is also makes sense, because immediate gratification of the basic the urge to be considered or recognized, or to make them feel important employees, that
Mm-hmm.
somewhere a great
That
place to
was
also catering.
okay. Okay. But sustaining it becomes a problem, you're saying?
Yeah, this is exactly what I am saying. It gives the initial boost, but
Right.
it is not going to stay
Huh.
until unless there are right strategies, and the right kind of culture that is within the organization, and the culture to help the young people to be accepted and grow within the system, and then overall building the pipeline.
Okay. So while you're saying there is the initial boost, sustaining it is not just about repeating the same things, right? Sustaining would
Yes, yes,
involve
yes.
something more. So anything that we need to measure at that point in time? I mean, do we look at it separately, or is that the point we should
Uh,
consider?
I think somewhere, we need to, see what are the, issues which are actually immediately can be handled when we talk about the work culture. So,
Hmm.
of course, what I feel somewhere the reward and recognition is one thing which is missing in most of the organization. People are very, very shy in Indian culture to
Right.
say means that you are doing great, because
Hmm.
whenever you the leaders feel when they say you are doing great, means he will expect a great increment also. So
Right.
which is not the case. Which is not the
Okay.
case. If you say
Okay.
a person that you have done this particular assignment wonderful, and
Huh.
your initiative is really appreciable, and sometimes if we say I love the way you have handled this project,
Hmm.
so it is okay to say, but there is a lot of apprehensions when leaders say even this much, and when they start saying, the
Okay.
culture changes.
Okay. Okay.
Even
But
in our family, we hardly appreciate our spouse.
right.
So
Right.
when we try doing that, these are very small things, but actually makes a real impact.
Right. Okay. Okay. But you also saying the expectation from the juniors could be something else, no? When I'm saying, okay, you're great and you're doing well, but they also expect an increment.
This is traditional, means thinking, but
That has to change.
out of my experience, I have seen actually it is not so.
Okay.
You
It's
know,
not so. Okay. Okay.
it's not so. When
Uh-huh.
a person is doing X assignment good, you have all the responsibility to say you are doing good. Whenever he is not doing good, you are always very open and very bold in saying that
Okay.
this you have not handled this well.
Okay.
So the leader should not be shy when you have to praise someone.
Okay. Just one last question. What are any negative attributes that we need to consider? Anything that we need to look at, which, let's say, what a learning culture is not, a learning organization is not. So, anything that we need to include in terms of the evaluation.
Learning culture is not so. For me this is a little means I cannot right now say something.
Okay.
I will think over and I'll get back to you on this.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Thanks for joining us today. And I think Jerry will also join too. Yeah.
So thank you,
Thank you,
Ramanji,
Jerry.
and those are some great insights. And yeah, I completely agree with you that the culture of appreciation is missing. And I've always been saying this, JC, that the Maslow's hierarchy should not be a hierarchy; it should be a continuum, right? Because
Yes.
all those thought processes should be kind of, the mindset needs to shift, that you don't start doing good only when you reach a certain level. No, you
Hmm.
start doing good from teenage days, right?
Right.
So you understand that people are important. That's why people skills are important. Skills about the planet are important. And I think the need of the hour is huge to make people understand that. And that's where
Hmm.
Maslow's hierarchy, I've always said, should have been a continuum rather than a hierarchy. But I've seen this, that even people in top leadership roles, like even CEOs, are insecure, right?
Hmm.
Because the higher you go, the more you're safeguarding your chair and your pay packet, right?
Yeah.
So that makes you even more insecure, and that's where they start playing these games and create toxic cultures, divide and rule kind of atmosphere. So that's where great places to work actually takes a beating, because on one
Hmm.
side, during the rating, all the employees are putting in their best, because they don't know how the rating will be translated by the management. On the other side, after the great places to work rating is done, you have the managers who go back to their toxic ways. So therein lies the problem. So that's what.
Right.
So thank you, Ramanji. Great insights and lovely learning from you. And thank you, JC, for all those great insights. JC,
Thank
of course, is a veteran researcher, has worked with several research organizations. She and Avinash are the founders of Tangram,
you.
who are our partners for the research. So we've left the entire research work to them. So
Pleasure is all mine. Actually, I have been honored to be with you,
thank you
JC
so much.
and
Thank you.
Jerry.
Pleasure and a privilege to have you with us. Thank you. And it's an honor
Thank you.
Thank
learning
you.
from you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ramanji.
Bye.
Thank
Have
you.
a
Bye
great
bye.
evening.
Thank
Enjoy the
you.
cold in Simla.
Thank you, boss.
All
Thank you.
right, JC, you enjoy
Bye.
the
Bye.
summer in Bombay.
Bombay. Yeah, thank you.
See you. Bye bye.
Okay.
All right,
Bye.
take care. Bye bye.
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 Thank
Thank
you.
you.
See you. Good night.